Is that right?
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to today's edition of LATOKEN VCTV. Today, we will be dealing with a very interesting topic, and I have obviously beautiful panel in front of me to discuss this. Today is International Women's Day, and our panel is split half and half. We have two beautiful women here, and it promises to be exciting.
Nathaniel, don't be saying beautiful men to her.
I was almost going to say that.
This isn't that kind of party.
I was going to say that, but I have to hold myself.
Well, maybe Stanley.
Awesome, guys. Awesome. So today we're going to be discussing a very interesting topic, something passionate to me, being a Nigerian. We're going to be discussing Africa and opportunities arising out of Africa. Q1 last year, at least 340 million was discovered to have been invested in the African startup ecosystem. That was over 100 million more than Q1 2019. And we're looking at industries like fintech, obviously, agriculture, some health, and some tourism that was invested in. And back in 2010, a McKinsey report actually pictured the agriculture sector in Africa as the largest economic sector. But is enough being done to invest in this sector? Well, we'll find out later during today's show. So, again, my name is Nathaniel Amida. I'm a country representative for LATOKEN Exchange, and I'm based in Nigeria. And I'd like our guests to introduce themselves one at a time. And I'm starting with the beautiful ladies here. Anthea, please introduce yourself. Tell us about what you do. Tell us about your background, and let's take it from there.
Sure. So I have an asset management business in South Africa called Cartesian Capital. We're very much traditional investments. We manage people's discretionary tax-free pension money. And we only generally at this stage play in the listed stock market, equities and bonds. My background is very much kind of equity derivatives, investment banking. So yeah, that's where I come from. But at the moment, we pretty much do across the board. We've got a team that back me up quite nicely.
Awesome, beautiful. So you have a lot of insights in the capital market across Africa. What's working, what's not working, and all that. Next, we go to Nadia. Nadia, please give us an intro by yourself, what you do.
Thanks so much, Nathaniel. So my name's Nadia, and I am based in Dubai, but my background is I'm the Director for Investor Relations for female-led startups, but I'm Director for Investor Relations for Vitality. We are a UAE-based, actually the first female-focused accelerator in the region, and we represent female-led business. Not geo-specific. Funny enough, we've had a few businesses just because our only criteria is that we're female focused. So we have a lot of women from all over the world that we represent. I'm the Chief Experience Officer for Women in Tech. So this is a global nonprofit organization that focuses on female leaders in STEM. And why the relevance to this topic, Africa Rising Opportunities, is I'm the founder and general partner for Seed South Capital, which is a South African seed fund that we really do focus on seed, and we have an investment thesis that's pretty much focused on authentic African stories, but then also technology. So, and hopefully bringing a lot of the informal businesses onto a tech platform, because that's where it's needed most.
Awesome. Thank you,
Oh,
Nadia.
I forgot, I'm a mom of two. That's always,
Awesome, yeah.
always relevant. Happy Women's Day.
Yeah. I was going to go there after everybody introduced themselves. I'm happy International Women's Day. And I hope you have some insights for African women too on a special day like this. It's really, really important. So Stanley, please, quickly, give us insights, introduce yourself. This is the first time I'm meeting you on this show. So
yeah, no, I mean, thanks again for the invite. I do feel like an underachiever considering what the two ladies have just gone ahead and said. But of course, I'm an investment banker for the African continent. I used to work for a company, investment bank here in South Africa called Investment Bank. But now I actually live in Amsterdam. I work for Triodos Investment Management, and what we do is that we invest across the African continent, looking for new innovations that help develop the continent. I think I also sit on a board of Signify Foundation, and one of our main causes is to actually try and find innovative renewable energy technologies across the African continent. So I mean, we invest across all the countries on the continent. And of course, finally, I'm a professor of sustainable development at TS Nimbus Business School in the Netherlands. So that's me.
awesome. Thank you for that intro, Stanley. I'll be putting a lot of questions to you, especially when it comes to innovation in Africa. Gary, small town boy from Pennsylvania. Please
That's right.
introduce yourself.
Country boy from Pennsylvania. You know that.
Yep, I know.
So my name is Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I love AI and quantum. In fact, my next article on quantum tunneling and the impact on wireless communications will come out in Forbes this week. My 124th article this year, actually in a year. And I am the CEO and co-founder of GST Get Shit Done Venture Studios, which is a global venture studio using Silicon Valley as a port to the rest of the world, helping startups come out. I've been involved in 2 unicorns, either co-founding or on the original team of. Click Software sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion about less than 2 years ago, and also Eva.ai, a company I founded 5 years ago. It's one of the top AI tech companies. And we're coming to Africa. We have a Nigerian startup within our portfolio, Rwandan and also South African. And actually, we're coming to Nigeria in 2 weeks.
Nice.
Awesome. Thank you, Gary, for that brief intro. We know the great stuff you do. I mean, you believe AI is the new electricity. I would like to understand how that will play in the African context, knowing the challenges that we have in this part of the world. But quickly, I want to start with the ladies, obviously. Today is your day, so we'll start with you first.
Every day is our day, Nathaniel.
True that. True. Now, considering the recent strides we made in the African space, especially in fintech, agri-tech, and some health tech, do you think that Africa is taking steps in the right direction to see itself play on the major stage? And this is why I'm asking this, Anthea. We have a lot of deficit in terms of infrastructure. Power is still a problem in most of Africa. Health is still a problem in most of Africa. And these are the things that a sustainable economy is built on. But it's like we've jumped these sectors, these industries, and gone ahead to go into fintech, agri-tech. But the honest truth is that to build cheaper services would need a solid infrastructure. So what say you when it comes to how fast Africa has gone? Are we moving in the right direction, or will we need to retrace our steps back a bit?
So Nathaniel, if you don't mind, I just want to take one step back before we get into the conversation about economics and industrialization. And one of the reasons I was so interested in this webinar is because I've worked in the most northern and the most southern capitals in Africa. So obviously I'm South African, born in Cape Town, currently working in Johannesburg. I've worked in Tunis for the African Development Bank. And if there is one thing that always intrigues me is why people talk about Africa as a country. We're 54 countries. We're very different. We have very different cultures, languages. I mean, in Tunis, it's first it's Arabic, French, and English. In South Africa, we've got 11 official languages, and only one of those overlaps. So there's no, in my opinion, I don't think there's one generic answer when we talk about the continent. I think we have to divide it up into sectors, countries, asset classes, and there's no doubt. I mean, you can talk about the continent that has been through cycles. You know, if you look at the front cover of kind of all the top magazines, in inverted commas, top magazines, you know, let's talk about the Time magazine called it a couple of years ago, called it the continent of coups, conflict and corruption. And then a couple of years later, The Economist called it Africa Rising. And so I'm not sure that's completely accurate. And when you talk, and I think you've kind of almost gotten to the point of the whole webinar, in fact, that Africa is probably the least industrialized continent, if we're going to talk about it as one entity, of all the continents. And so the idea of how we cross this chasm, or how we jump from being the least industrialized to suddenly being the leaders in tech and the best 4 IR sectors in the world, it's almost a crazy concept. I don't know how we do that. I think some countries will lead for sure, and I think other countries will lag, and across different sectors, you know. So perhaps I think Nigeria is probably a good example of leading when it comes to tech and mobile telephony and a couple of other things. But then you look at other countries like maybe Ethiopia, and they're leaders in agriculture. So I think we have to break it up a little bit. And for me, the most exciting thing that has happened on the continent, and now I'm going to talk about it as one entity after that lecture about it being 54 countries, is the Africa Free Trade Agreement, which started in 2018 and got revisited and signed in January of this year. And just speaking from a South African perspective, actually what suddenly happened, and I mean, that happened in January, it's only the beginning of March now, we saw Supergroup, which is a South African logistics business, promise to replace their entire fleet in Africa, which is something they haven't done in 30 years. So yes, it's great that we're suddenly working together as a continent with this Africa Free Trade Agreement. But it doesn't go across the board. And I think we need more free trade agreements or more incentive to work together.
Awesome, thank you, Andreas. Okay, Stanley, go ahead.
Because I'm quite fascinated to hear that, because I see completely opposite. I think one of the biggest challenges that Africa has got in terms of having the, if I can say, the negotiable power is the lack of our unity. And I think, like, you know, if you look at, you know, we look at EU, we look at the United States of Africa, United States of America, I'm jumping the state. If you think about it, if we as an individualistic African country like Ghana is negotiating with EU, we're negotiating with like how many different countries? If we're negotiating with the United States, think about it, we're negotiating. So I do believe that, and of course we're gonna go further into the discussion, is that the only way Africa is gonna get out of this current state of affairs is through unity. And unfortunately, that is probably what is gonna be the best way forward, because for the last 400 years, you know, we've been doing it individualistically, and we are still where we've been for the last 1,000 years. So it will be quite an interesting conversation, and I'd love to also pick your brain offline to actually talk about this as well.
Awesome, Stanley.
Actually,
I was going to, sorry, Nadia, before you
go ahead.
I was taking that same line, because I understand there's this African proverb that says something about strength in unity, and how and Africa is a very unique case study, because what works in other parts of the world doesn't work word for word in Africa. And I think unity is our strongest weapon to come together, collaborate, and make strides. So that was the point where I was coming from. And Africa, we are blessed. Natural and human resources, we are indeed blessed with a lot of these things. But I'll leave that one to you and that's why we are here, you know, to throw back and forth and share these ideas. So please, Nadia, go ahead. Do you think?
Yeah, I think that was a perfect progression in the conversation from Anthea to Stanley as well, because the economist Mbele, after the State of the Nation, or even before the State of the Nation address in February from Cyril, said that there were two things that came out of COVID. Really, was the inter-Africa trade, as well as the necessity for the digital economy and the investment into it. Because if you look at South Africa specifically, the industries being mining, manufacturing, construction, trade and transport, these are very heavy physical, got so much inertia, and the speed at which those industries can change is going to be a lot slower than so innovation, what I'm trying to say, innovation is born out of necessity. And that's where I think there's a lot of investment coming into South Africa, Africa, but South Africa, I speak from that perspective with regards to the startup ecosystem, because I mean, $1 to a ZAR exchange is pennies, but with that, the speed of the innovation that can take place is rapid. And the limitations that I see is really the data and the devices that this can be done on. It's not necessarily the skill set, because like I said, innovation is born, in my opinion, out of necessity, and the skills are there, the resources are there. There's universities, incubation, like the acceleration programs, the partners willing to dive in from other geos are there. It's just the lack of data and the expense of data in the country is a problem, and that's something that needs to change. But I agree with Stanley in terms of the inter-Africa trade. I think that we're going to see that a lot more, and also so in the countries, the head of states are doing their best to change the landscape, especially with what Anthea mentioned with the trade, the free trade agreement. So there is movement, but it's going to take foreign investment to ignite the speed at which it has to be done. And that's why I'm really thankful that we're setting up an ecosystem through conversations like this, but also through key partners on the ground with international foreign investment, to say it is safe to come and invest in the country, but it doesn't have to be as it can be agile. You can do so, start at the bottom and work your way through the startup ecosystem.
Thank you very much, Nadia. And I think the lesson I take from your is just to build something organically, just build it, because only Africans can really solve our problems. So we need to come together and we need to build something that with a good foundation that would last. Gary, your thoughts, is Africa moving in the right direction in building itself up? I mean, you know very well the number of startups that are in the continent, and the number that you are supporting compared to 5-10 years ago. Do you think we're moving in the right direction, Gary?
Yeah. And I just want to say my grandmother's from Africa. So actually,
wow.
she's Greek, born in Egypt. So so just FYI, and I remember growing up as a kid, she was speaking Arabic and Greek to me. So
interesting.
So I know a little bit about it. Anyhow, I think there's incredible opportunities. And, the thing is, we got to look at it. Mother Teresa said that you don't talk about stop war, it's about pro-peace. And so I can tell you directly, I started going to Russia in 1992. I moved to Russia in 2001. I spent 14 years in Moscow. There was no ecosystem. I started the first accelerator in all Russia, Skolkovo Startup Academy, with my partner Lawrence, and also started the first corporate private accelerator, the #1 private accelerator globally. So I can tell you that there was resistance in the beginning. It was not easy, but it's about passion. It's about optimism. It's about visualization. It's about looking at the glass being half full rather than half empty. And that's a starting point. And I can see it now. I told you we're putting our money where our mouth is. In 2 weeks, we'll be in Nigeria. We have a Nigerian startup spotter, which is one our portfolio. Also, we've got a Zulu from South Africa, and we've got a Rwandan startup also. So, and think about it. AI is a new electricity, but there's AI work. There's AI Saturdays in Nigeria that happen. And it's about exposure, and it's about the visibility of the rest of the world. So can it move in the right direction? It is. Can you support it? Yes. Are people interested? Absolutely. But the key is, it's like having a Ferrari in the garage. If you have a Ferrari in your garage and nobody knows about it, it's only the Ferrari that you know about. You got to take it out, drive it, test it, and let people see what you have. So, that's part of it. So the idea is, how do you share it with the rest of the world? And remember, intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities aren't. So,
Awesome.
we see this, on the board. I don't know if you know this group or not, but the NAACP in the U.S., one of the board members of NAACP is on our board. So he's a good friend of mine. We've been working with the Black community in the U.S. I have personally for 15 years. I met with the mayor of Atlanta, Kasim Reed, the former mayor of Atlanta. Lamel McMorris is on our board. He's one of the wealthiest of Blacks in the U.S. and my friend. Right. So it's about passion. And, I grew up on the side of a mountain. I make fun of it, a 500-person village, literally. But I mean, we also were disadvantaged too, because I grew in a school that had one school for each grade. I'm talking small. So we were farmers, and Amish and Mennonites were my neighbors. So it's about hope and passion and belief and sharing the opportunities. And what we have to do is we got to move quickly, because this is an opportunity. There's a lot of really bright people. I see the AI startups. I see the quantum startups. It's about minding them and showing people the opportunity. And by the way, one unicorn breeds another 10, right? Because people get excited.
Yeah, you're right. You're very right there, Gary. And I'm also aware about the Spotter project. I'm excited about what they have to offer the Nigerian market and the African market. And I look forward to seeing them do great things and expand across Africa. But that takes me back to the fact that you mentioned something about driving the Ferrari out of the garage. So now it's time for Africa's Ferrari to go out of the garage. And
Absolutely.
and that's the exposure, the opportunity. And I'd like to let our guests, those watching from all over the world, wherever you're watching from, this is an opportunity to put that Ferrari on the world stage by coming to pitch your idea on the LATOKEN VCTV platform. I mean, you get to meet great people like Stanley, Anthea, Nadia, and Gary. Pitch your idea, get the kind of exposure and support that you need. And you never know, you might walk away with a good idea and a good support or something. Just drive that Ferrari out of the garage and come on LATOKEN VCTV, and let's see how it goes. And also at the beginning of the show, I saw a lot of comments from our viewers. I mean, we are streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. We are streaming live. And if you have any questions to our panelists here, please just drop a message. I get to read it out live, and you get feedback in real time. So awesome. Now I want to go to this question of innovation in Africa. Innovation is like Gary said. I know, I think it was Nadia that said something about innovation. Now, without innovation, we will probably just sit on our feet and waiting for grants and waiting for support. And now I think it's time, and Gary has mentioned this before, innovation has to come from us, by us, to support the African continent. Now, what do you think enough is being done to, now I know enough is being done in the fintech space and all that, but is enough being done in the other sectors of Africa, health sector, agri sector? Is enough innovation being encouraged to support the, and these are critical, the manufacturing sector. I remember doing a study for a project. You see, this project now realized that by the year 2030, there'll be 1 billion unemployed, uneducated African youths. 1 billion, and they decided that, and they knew that our education system in Africa might not be enough to support all these 1 billion youth. So they decided to use sports as a means to engage and support these African youths, knowing fully well that sports, you could take a sports career and then become successful, and then you could also take a sports career to be become an educator or a specialist in whatever sport. So I think this is a sort of innovation in that sector, using sports to bridge the education divide and all that. Now, do you think enough is being done by African the ecosystem or entrepreneurs to encourage innovation? And what kind of innovation would you like to see down the line? I think I'll start from Anthea, please. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was wondering who you were going to send that to. There's no doubt. So I think you're looking at innovation at two different aspects. You know, sometimes when we say innovation, we think tech for IR, and that's how we're moving platforms. But I love the idea that you've mentioned sport as being an innovative way to do business. And again, I struggle with this idea of a country that is, a continent that is racked with poverty. I mean, 40% of people in Africa live on less than $2 a day. And how do you get them, or how do we get our people on the continent to suddenly be innovative when they're just trying to survive? I find that, you know, I kind of almost feel that we're jumping the gun and we're not getting the basics right. And this whole discussion earlier on that we were having about, and I loved what Stanley said, we should work together. The irony of kind of what he said was that just this weekend I was doing some research on the coffee market, and Chinese coffee consumption, bear with me here, Chinese coffee consumption has increased by 30%, is increasing by 30% year on year. They used to have, like, on average 1 cup per person of coffee in China. Now, if you think about Africa, there are 5 countries in Africa that produce fantastic coffee. Now, that's not the whole continent. That's a 10th of the continent. But what we should see and what should be happening is that we want to draw investment into these countries, right? So Ethiopia, Tanzania, Kenya, these are probably our biggest coffee producers. So there I was getting all excited about selling Africa coffee to China, and that being a great thing. And of course, that will draw investment. And from that, I think you can probably, if you want to go on the innovation path, take that money and start innovating and improve and industrialize and move forward. And then the worst part of my day is this morning, I saw that Kenya had banned maize imports from Tanzania and Uganda. And then that's kind of like, oh, that's a bit disappointing. But, you know, I don't think it's a criticism. I think, and this whole, like, we're all Africa, one Africa. I mean, there's Brexit. They weren't all one Europe, you know, so let's not knock ourselves on the head for not being one Africa and not using our might to go and negotiate with the outside world. But, and I love the idea of innovation. So I'm very much in the stock market, like, you know, listed entities. And so it's great to be in South Africa because we are definitely the most liquid stock market, and we are by far the best and most innovative stock market in South Africa. And I've been in the market for a long time. And I'm trying to think when this was, I would say about 2005, South Africa was the largest derivatives trader, second largest derivatives trader after India in the world. And I'm not sure how we slipped. You know, I'm not sure. So we were innovation leaders in 2005, but now 2021, and I don't know how we kind of slipped down the path of not being that great innovative stock market. And that's just one of the examples that I want to use. Like, once you've got it, like, kind of, you have to hang on to it. But to hang on to it, you need investment. You need foreign direct, solid investment, not this flighty money. You need, you know, people who are going to come in and invest for a long time. And I think that would be the key to making this innovation work.
You are right there. I feel you're very right. I mean, there has to be a balance between collaboration and independence at the same time. And it's pretty difficult in a continent where you have different countries change leaders or not change leaders every 20 or 30 years and all. So it's a bigger problem that ought to be addressed. But at the same time, I um, had a discussion, obviously, with Gary a while back, and it's obvious that Africa has a lot of problems, but sometimes it's left to us, the individuals, to own our challenges and just move on from there. If not, we keep on waiting for the right time, the perfect moment, and all that. And Stanley, I mean, I know you've been in deep thought since, and I can see you thinking. I can see that over your head. I mean, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I think as everybody agrees, I mean, there's great opportunities in Africa. I think the challenge that we actually have now is looking at local innovation versus international innovation. Because what is happening now is that if you look at, we talk about fintech, we talk about renewable energy, we talk about all of this kind of data-driven innovation that is needed in Africa. Who are the owners of those innovations? They are international companies that come and set up here and actually own that innovation. So it is very, very important for us to identify, because Africans are for talent. Do not be mistaken. I think our innovations are the right innovations for the continent, but unfortunately, we've been crowded out by international innovations, which is attracting all the funding. And that is why, and I think, Antia, you actually mentioned it absolutely rightly, because right now, so many people live in poverty, okay? But instead of focusing on the local innovations that actually get people out of poverty, we are looking at innovations. For example, let me give you an example. There's a company in the United States, Harvard, okay? And they've developed drugs to actually deliver medicine to harder to reach communities in Africa. But then you sit there, it's like, okay, hold on. Instead of using all that billions and billions of investment that was given to that company, why couldn't we have built roads that could have led to those communities in order that we can leverage on those infrastructure to actually move forward? And I think that is where Africa is struggling, although there's opportunities. And I think locally, we have to actually look at local innovation, because that is what is more aligned to our continental development, and stop focusing on this international innovations, because at the end of the day, those are crowding local innovators out of the ecosystem. And my last point is that, don't forget, ownership is what breeds dividends, which allows people to take risk. Okay, if all this dividends is being paid to international companies, that means that the African continent never actually developed, because at the end of the day, all the risk capital is being taken out of the country. So we have to create a balance between local innovation and international innovation. I think that's our biggest challenge.
Awesome insight. As in, I feel like giving you a hug right now, because I know that there are significant number of innovators in the African among African youths. You see a lot of young guys coming up with machinery. I mean, the other day I went to the club, and everybody comes there playing tennis, playing basketball, and all that. But in order to wash your hands and keep COVID compliant, you need to open the taps and all that. But I saw this machine that you just need to put your hands on that and tap the pedals. Now, this was crafted locally by some local craft guy. And to me, that just ensured that you weren't touching anything germ-free, and then you got to wash your hands, then wipe them and all that. That to me is innovation on a local scale. Now, imagine if that was really supported and really encouraged, and then production went into other African countries like that, then went international. Obviously, innovation will mean that the size will become smaller, will become cheaper to manufacture. To me, that's the kind of innovation I'm looking at African countries or African entrepreneurs or African youths to carry out. Innovation from within and then take it out there. Yes, I understand that most of the time, Anthea, like Anthea said, our challenge is not just innovation. Sometimes I live on less than $2 a day. How do I eat? Talk less of think about innovation. And it's still a challenge, but within the challenges, I can tell you innovation still comes out of this. Nadia, you might have something to say about innovation and all that we've said so far.
It comes from my background.
Your
Is it
mic.
better?
Okay. Yeah, it's better. It's better now.
I agree with the innovation, and I agree with, I mean, Anthea said, we're jumping the gun and we need to go back to basics. And I think that's said quite often. And then Stanley alluded to, Africanizing the innovation rather than bringing it in from elsewhere. And I see that in the venture capital space as well, or in the funding space, especially where we play as Seed South Capital. The copy and paste does not work. And that's why it's fallen flat. And that's why we've had to spend the last 12 months building our thesis, speaking to partners, later stage partners, reverting it back, speaking to government, reverting it back, speaking to the accelerators and the incubators. So we've spent 12 months researching how best to Africanize the fund for seed stage investment. But coming from my background and also where I play is I'm very much focused on female-led business, not because, I just feel like that's an opportunity in itself. And, to 725 million in VC funding went in Africa in 2018, only less than, I would say 1%, a fraction of it went to female-led startups. And out of 98 of those African startups, only 13 of them were had females on their team, and then only 4 of them were female-led. And the African Development Bank estimates that there's a deficit, for funding gap for women entrepreneurs across business value chains of up to 42 billion. The change will happen when we start investing in women, because according to the UN, 90% of a female earning, and we're talking about goes back into their communities and goes back into their families. So a small change like that, just focusing on diversifying your portfolio and the female-led businesses that you have in your portfolio, is a rising opportunity, because they build businesses a little differently and with a different perspective. And majority of the small, medium-sized businesses in Africa are run by women. I was speaking to a startup there in blockchain, for example. They helped take, there were 5 women selling weaves out of a taxi rank. And I think this story is well known in South Africa, but it's a massive industry. A waitress who spends 6 months saving a salary will go and spend on average $216 on a weave. This is an African business, and a foreign investor from Europe does not understand this kind of business. And what happened was, the startup, they got a mentor who helped them put the business onto a blockchain. And it transformed the business, and it's now in 5-6 different African countries. And it's a simple tweak to an informal business that's now been innovated by an African mentor, because they understand the market. And now these women are supporting other women, other communities. And that's just a perfect example of not only innovation, but just diversifying a little bit the way you look at your investments with the lens that you look at it.
Thank you very much, Nadia. That example is very important. Seeing how collaboration, technology comes together, and you see the unity that we're looking for is probably the unity that you just mentioned. And I know Stanley has to go in a few seconds, right? And just before he goes, please just give us something. Give the entrepreneur out there, give the audience out there something they need to take away when it comes to the opportunity, immense opportunities out there.
Yeah, I think you know what, I'm gonna follow Nadia's thinking quickly, and I think like right now the diaspora has got a very very massive role to play in terms of like opportunities in Africa, because opportunities are driven by the availability of investment. And now if you look at the African diaspora, they actually understand the continent, they understand the role that women play on the continent, and they actually understand where the opportunities lie with them. And I think the diaspora needs to come into play here. For local entrepreneurs, I think it is very, very, very important to start chasing local investments from local venture capital owners. And if you look at Antia and if you look at what Nadia is talking about, the local capital providers actually understand what is going on. Right now, everybody's chasing international capital, but unfortunately, they get crowded out. So I do believe that local entrepreneurs should look for local investors, while the African diaspora needs to actually start putting their money where their mouth is, like Gary said, where they actually start investing in local funds run by local fund investment managers that can actually help the continent actually take advantage of its own opportunity, rather than let international leakages come and take over the opportunities. Yes, again, I do apologize. Thank you very, very much for such a great topic. I'm so sad that I couldn't stay to the end, but I wish you all the best, and I hope I'll be in the next discussion for opportunities in Africa. Good to meet you all.
Awesome.
And I'll speak to you soon.
Bye, Stanley.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Stanley.
No worries.
Yeah. So Stanley right there left us with more reason to collaborate, more reason to look inwards, and as Africans, focus more on what we can do by ourselves, for ourselves, than focus on what the outside world does for us. And Gary, I know that most of your discussions around innovation focuses on technology that Africans can adopt, technology, how to integrate the power of data, AI, and to accelerate the process of development and innovation. Now, what do you have to say about African opportunities arising 2021 going forward? How much more do they need to focus on this sort of innovation, and in what light, in what direction?
Yeah, I mean, well, so let's just put it in perspective. There are 40 petabytes of data on the planet today. If we took CDs and stacked them one on top of another, it would go 29 times back and forth to the moon. And the number rises at 68.7% per year. So we're in a state, as Alvin Toffler said, of infobesity. So where's the opportunity? Think about it. Just the people in the panel today and the viewers. Think about how many times a week you say, I know that file exists, but I can't find it. Why? I've either forgotten the keyword or the location. So, and the average person has about 300,000 items in their personal cloud. The entire web in 1996 was 257,000 websites. The number doubles every year. In 5 years, it'll be 10 million. Think about it. How many times every week do you say, I know the file exists? Where you sent me a message. Where did you send it? I don't remember seeing it, right? It's crazy because here we are, moving on the edge of quantum computing, and we can't even find things in our personal file. This is the opportunity because we're in a state of infobesity. The companies that develop technology that aren't smart but intelligent assistants using unsupervised AI are going to win the race because we are in a state where we're inundated with information. Each one of us needs to have an assistant to help us understand our world. And it gets more and more important. There'll be a point in time where the people that understand their data and people don't. And the people that understand the data will be the people that rule. So I see African startups from Egypt, from Nigeria, from Rwanda, South Africa that have already started down this path. In Nigeria, they have AI Saturdays, right? So you've got a push. But the more that is pushed, the more they see these opportunities where they can have a nice exit, the more this is going to create momentum in the system. And I see it. I hear from startups all over Africa today. And I'm encouraged. I mean, we're going to be in Nigeria from the 18th to the 25th. I mean, we're that encouraged. We want to be part of it. And we want to do what we can to help. And I've seen it in Kazakhstan. I've seen it in other places we do business. Belarus, Ukraine. People said, when I got started at Stanford, I wrote a paper at Stanford with one of the PhD candidates called Bilateral Technology Trade. between the U.S. and Russia, and it took the region into consideration. In 2001, people said, "Oh no, nothing's going to ever happen to Russia." Well, we had the first event, then at the U.S.-Russia Technology Symposium, and then it started to take off like crazy. So it's a matter of getting the visibility, showing the investors around the world there's opportunities, and curating those companies to help them understand which direction to go.
Gary, you made such an interesting point about these. So you're seeing all these tech and innovative companies on the continent happening, but where do they get their capital to grow, and what is their exit strategy? Because working in the capital markets, my concern is that we see these great ideas and we see these companies, but how do they raise capital to then become global companies? You know, South Africa has a couple of stories about great South Africans who had to go offshore to get scale, get capital, and then find an exit strategy on a stock market where they could list. You know, South Africa is yet to see this great Alibaba IPO or Amazon or Tesla or whatever the example you want to lead. So what I'm interested in is where are the answers on the African continent for this?
Well, you know, Anthea, you're singing to my soul, because that's why I'm coming in. That's what we do. We help companies go global using Silicon Valley as a port. Click Software was a company from Israel, from Haifa at the time. People weren't really looking at Israeli startups. This was the late 90s. I got inducted into the company as a senior vice president by Oak Investment Partners, one of the top VCs. Anyhow, we brought it over to Silicon Valley. The company sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion. It's a visibility. It's creating that bridge. And where are they getting where will they get the money? Where will they get the exit? They'll get the exit by raising the bar of the visibility, making sure that they're surgically precise in terms of their technology, that it's going to meet a global need, make sure they're doing the right kind of customer development. I mean, the good news is it started, right? It's not the end game. It's the beginning of the game. So all the answers aren't there yet. The system, the infrastructure needs to be put in place, but it's the same thing we have it in Russia. When I started Startup Academy at Skolkovo with my partner Lawrence, there was not an ecosystem in Russia, right? You have all these genius scientists and engineers, but not an ecosystem. I remember when we started, we had 3 people in our Entrepreneurs Club. The very largest one that I had over 2,000 people come in. I had Guy Kawasaki on the stage. Now I had to get Guy Kawasaki convinced to come on the stage, right, and get over from the Valley. But it's part of getting the visibility. So what we need to do is exactly what VC's TV is doing today, is ratchet up the visibility and then curate those companies through the investment process. They've got to get the there is investment capital that wants to invest in Africa, but it's basically matching that up and making sure that their story's correct, right? The narrative makes sense to global investors. And that's a challenge everywhere, not just Africa. It's all over the world. I have companies from the UK, companies from Indonesia, companies from South America, which also has 640 million people, right? So there's opportunities all over the world, but there's not a venue, a way to get it out. That's the challenge, right? And so we're coming in, we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're going to come to Nigeria the 18th to the 25th. Then we're going to Dubai because we have a lot of connections in Dubai. And it's about money. It's not easy. Let me tell you, it's not easy. Because
so Gary, sorry, I don't mean to kind of labor the point, but there's a very interesting statistic. There are over 250 Israeli companies listed on the NASDAQ. And it always intrigues me because I think Israel is seen as a very innovative country, and yet their companies go off and list in the US. And my feeling is almost that, like, is that the answer for Africa? Do we build great innovative companies here and then go and search for capital on the NASDAQ when we need it for growth? I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. Like, as long as our South African African companies are getting capitalized, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, the situation is, so, you know, I'm a country boy from Pennsylvania. You always go out, you fish where they're fishing the lake, right? I remember my friends, and this is a real story, 2 lakes, and my friend said, I knew that they stocked a lake. And I said, I'm going to go fish over there. My friend said, no, I'm going to go to the other one. So we both went to different lakes. I caught my limit. My friend didn't. I caught 6 fish. I gave him half of my fish. And the situation is, it's gone. So one is, you're not taking jobs away. That's door number one. You're enhancing jobs, right? Because what you're using operational expertise from other areas to be able to help curate the system. Then is, you look where the most money is. Again, you're looking where the valuations are the highest. So the situation, until the structure is set up in Africa, you want to go where that is, wherever it is. And right now, it's a good way to use the U.S. because that's where the valuations, Silicon Valley, the valuations are highest. And there's a lot of interest in Africa. So it's like, keep it simple, stupid rule, right? KISS. So we want to just go down. And with Russia, my company, EVA, 90% of my employees are in Russia. 10% of my employees in other parts of the world. My R&D work's being done there. I could see the same situation in Africa. But remember, there's three parts of building a company. And I wrote about this recently in Forbes. One is intergenerational teams, because you need some gray hair and experience. 2 is cultural diversity. And 3 is you need decentralized teams. The world's changed in the last year. And when I say this, we're putting our money where our mouth is. We see it. It's not easy. There's been some pain through the COVID and the digital transformation, but it's upon us. And Africa has a great opportunity. But, and we see it now. It's the beginning stages of what I've seen in Kazakhstan, what I've seen in Latin America, what I've seen in Europe, even in Germany, right? Because you've had a pragmatic view of things. It's hard for them to go out because, a box is a box and we need to understand the angles of the box and that kind of thing. It's more about how do we get shit done and how do we get out there.
Awesome, Gary. Thank you very much. And a lot has been said. And I know a lot needs to be said in addition to all that has been said. But we have only as much time, and we've come to the end, to the very tail end of today's discussion. And I wish to ask more questions or get more insight, especially from Anthea. I know Anthea is really passionate about Africa, and not giving away our power, But regardless, no man is an island, and there are some things you pick up from different, much more advanced industries or sectors, and you borrow. But you have to make sure that I believe that all this that we do in Africa is only to make build a foundation for what we as Africans will have ourselves, because like Nadia said, you can't just copy paste from other places and use it. Africa is unique. So we need to know what works for us and then build it from there. And it's interesting because we are getting solutions here and there and ideas here and there on what to do. And I wanted to go into the discussion of the untapped human resources and all that, but we cannot go that far. But maybe Anthea can start with the role you would like to see women playing in the development, advancement of Africa going forward. Today is International Women's Day. Every day is Women's Day, but today is special. So we want your thoughts, your insights. What role do you see women playing going forward, and how active should it be? Be it in politics, in business, tech, whatever. Your thoughts.
Nathaniel, that's such a broad question. I generally think women should just step up and just be more confident and kind of go with it. The stats are just horrific about women, being given the freedom to start their own businesses and to do what they want to do and need to do. And I don't see, I don't know how that is, because in my industry, there's research that proves that women as fund managers, and this is like the tiniest example, but female fund managers outperform male fund managers just because we have different skill sets which are not being used in the market or being used to manage assets. And if that's only one example, I suspect Nadia has many more examples than me. So, I really think my kind of message today on International Women's Day is I think women need to empower themselves. I don't think they should wait for others to empower them. Kind of step up and do what you want to do and bring forward and have the confidence to bring forward your ideas. And good luck.
Awesome. Awesome. Nadia, quick one. What do you think? And your final words about today's topic. What do you think women should do more, and what do you think Africans should do more?
So I actually wrote a post on LinkedIn about it yesterday. It's role models, right? We as humans, we naturally emulate what we see. And at the moment, I grew up in the tech industry 10 years. There was one woman at the big table at the top making decisions. So I think Anthea's right, just step up. And I would like to challenge investors out there to move the needle, make that 1% change of investing in female-led businesses. If you had one in your portfolio, double it in the next year, because that does make a difference. So when I speak to individuals who say to me, or investors that say to me, oh yeah, but women or men, doesn't matter. I'm like, well, how many females do you have in your portfolio? And it's usually 1 out of 10. So I would like to challenge the investors out there and the women out there with capital, just angel invest. And the men out there, just change your lens on the portfolios that you have by 1 or 2, just double it. If you had 1 woman, double it. If you had no, make sure to have 1 in there. Because the more the world is balanced, the better place it will be.
I can confirm all that you said, Nadia, because I work with my senior colleague. She's a great woman. I wonder how she does all that she does. Sonny Mohanty. I mean, sometimes I feel that she grows extra hands behind her back to work, and we don't see those hands because she works hard. And I see her doing stuff, and I'm really impressed. And more women out there in Nigeria here. I see women wake up early in the morning, get to work, and then still have to come home to cook for the husbands. And I'm wondering, how do you do all these things? I can barely get through my day. And I know that giving the more empowerment and opportunities, these women will go ahead and do excellent. And here's to saying happy International Women's Day to all the women around us. And Gary, your thoughts and insights just before we go on opportunities in the African space and what you see 5-10 years from now.
Well, I mean, it's we're just the beginning of the dawn of incredible opportunities, and what we have to do is in order to do that, we have to nurture. We're planting the seeds that are going to blossom very, very quickly. So I'm very, very encouraged about it. Like I said, we're putting our money where our mouth is, and it's not just Nigeria; it's all over Africa. We see those opportunities. But when you have things like AI Saturdays in Nigeria that really support the ecosystem, you can tell that the seeds are being planted and they're being curated to be extremely successful. So where's it going to be in 5 years? You're going to see it grow very, very quickly, and you're going to start to see different countries start to dominate very quickly. The ones that get it, the ones that adopt it, the ones that support it, and governments that are friendly to it, it'll happen very quickly. So I'm excited about it, and we look forward to the dawn of this new era, and we want to be part of it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. I mean, you guys have been wonderful, have given and shared insights. I've taken my notes too, and I want to urge everyone that missed this show or missed part of this show, please go back to our social media, go back to LinkedIn, YouTube, watch this over again. Entrepreneurs, watch this, learn from the insights these wonderful people have given us, and apply to some of the things you're doing, and then come back, make a pitch to us. All of us here will be ready to listen and support whatever the really innovative idea you have. And again,
can I say one thing? We will be in Nigeria the 18th through the 25th. So we want to meet with the folks. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, Gary Fowler, or Twitter. I said we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're coming over. So please contact us. We'd be happy to meet with you. We'd be happy to speak at events. We'd be happy to talk about Silicon Valley or going global, whatever. We just, we want to meet with folks. So please reach out.
Awesome. I saw your link or your post on LinkedIn. I shared it, and I will share it with more people as the days go by. And so you have it there. Please join Gary and his team. Get shit done. 18th, and then let's have a good time. So, guys, thanks a lot for being part of this show. Anthea, thank you very much. You've been wonderful. Nadia, thank you, Stanley, wherever you are. You know, Gary, thanks a lot. Hope to see you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.